In this video, we'll show you how to install a high-performance Rockford Fosgate audio system on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Hey, welcome back. I'm Eric, and today we're going to install an HD9813SGU-STAGE3 on this cool 2008 Electra Glide Ultra Classic. We'll get started by using the thumb screw to remove the seat, and then use a 10mm socket to disconnect the battery negative. Now we're ready to remove the fairing. First, we'll install the service cover on the fender. We also need to protect our front marker lights, so we'll turn them slightly to the side in order to give us some clearance. Then we'll use some velvet covers or tape some microfiber claws around them. We'll use a T27 Torx driver to remove 4 bolts on the inside, 2 of which are located between the forks. Then we'll use a T25 Torx to remove the 3 bolts that hold the visor in place. Now, it's best to have 2 people for this step. One to hold the fairing in position and the other to remove the screws. Once we pull down on the fairing, we'll disconnect the headlight harness and then remove the fairing from the bike. Now we're ready to remove our speakers. We'll start by detaching the speaker wires from each one. Note that the white wire with the red stripe is the positive and the other wire is negative. We'll use a 3/16 Allen driver to remove 1 bolt from the fairing support bracket. Then we'll switch to a T25 Torx to remove 3 screws from the speaker and carefully remove it. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Now that that's done, we're ready to remove the factory radio. First, detach the OEM harnesses from the radio by lifting up on the tabs, then pulling the harness out. Then remove the antenna. Detach any accessories that are mounted to the top of the radio as well. Then, using a long reach 3/16 Allen or L wrench, remove the top 2 screws holding the main support bracket and 2 screws from each side of the radio. Take note that the access hole allows you to reach the front screw. Once you're done, carefully remove the radio by sliding it out from the back. Now we're ready to remove our TourPak speakers. To get started, use a T9 Torx driver to remove 4 screws holding the grill and speaker in place. Remove the grill and speaker, then detach the speaker wires. Note which wires are positive and negative. And once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Now we're ready to install our new source unit. To get started, use a clean, slightly damp microfiber cloth to remove any dust around the fairing's opening. Then insert the radio at an angle into the rear bracket housing. Be careful with the front of the radio not to hit the gauges or catch anything around the rubberized dust shield. Slide the radio into the fairing opening, then slide the chassis down into place. Use a 3/16 Allen to secure the radio using the existing 4 bolts on the sides, then secure the top 2 bolts into the radio bracket. Once we're done, reconnect the OEM harnesses and antenna. Take note that we're not using the RCA output harness supplied with the radio since we're going to use the high-level outputs. But on this motorcycle, we're going to use the AUX input, so we'll go ahead and use a T10 Torx to open the access door and plug the harness in with the catch prong facing up until it clicks into place. We want to talk about the USB input on the radio, which allows you to charge your phone, play music, and make software updates. Now you have several options for this cable. The first one is leave the cable as is, but that will require you to remove the fairing to make any software updates. Second option is to zip tie the USB extension to the harness in between the forks. Now that's not very convenient either. The third is replace the cigarette lighter with our USB and zip tie it to the handlebar since the grommet fits perfectly. Now, we're going to actually show you a fourth option which replaces the cigarette lighter with our universal USB and 3.5mm panel mount accessory. This optional adapter provides a convenient flush mount USB port to charge your mobile device, play your music through the USB drive, allow you to make software updates, and coolest of all, connect your non-Bluetooth audio devices into the radio's auxiliary input. This will give you direct access to all your music. Now we're ready to install our new speakers. The TMS5 SG speakers included in your kit contain replacement bezels, grills, and screws. Now be sure to use this hardware as it accommodates the slightly different mounting depth and trim ring. Position the speaker with the logo facing down and the thick bezel facing up. Insert the two longer screws into the top of the speaker and secure them in place using a number 2 Phillips. Then, using a 3/16 Allen driver, secure the fairing support bracket back in place. Using the shorter screw, attach the bracket and finish securing the speaker. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Now that we have that done, we're ready to remove our gas tank. We'll start off by disconnecting 2 harnesses and pulling 2 breather lines in the back. Note that they may be zip tied underneath. Next, we'll disconnect the main gas line. Push up on the hose and while sliding the fitting upward, pull down on the gas line. Now be sure to have a shop rag handy to catch any excess fuel left in the line. Now on our motorcycle, there's also some aftermarket LEDs that we'll be disconnecting. Once that's done, use a 1/2-inch socket to remove the 2 bolts from the front of the gas tank and 2 bolts in the back. Now that we have access to the center channel, we're ready to install our power, TourPak, and bag lid harnesses. To get started, first unsnap the center channel cover. Then take the connector side of our power harness and run it up the clutch side to the amplifier location that will be mounted on top of the source unit. Then we'll finish routing the power and ground cables down the left side of the channel, making sure we have enough slack to make our battery connections. Then we'll switch to our TourPak and bag lid harnesses by routing the TourPak connectors labeled rear in and rear out, along with our bag lid connector labeled speaker rear, up the brake side to the amplifier location. We'll finish by routing the harnesses on the right side of the channel and resting the remaining slack near the battery. Now we're ready to install the speakers in our TourPak. To get started, we'll run our TourPak harness along the factory harnesses and route the wires labeled clutch left to the left speaker and brake right to the right speaker. Follow the factory harnesses and insert the wires into the bottom cutout. Next, attach the spade terminals to the existing speaker wires, noting the black stripe being negative. Don't worry, they're keyed to fit only one way. Then we'll attach the speaker wires to the speaker itself, noting red is positive and black is negative. Next, place the speaker and grill assembly in the TourPak while aligning the logo toward the bottom. Finally, using a 2mm Allen wrench and the 4 supplied screws, secure the speaker in place. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Now we're ready to prep our amplifier for installation. We'll use the small L bracket, heat sinks, and 2 flush mount screws from our amp mounting kit. First, position the heatsink upside down with the heatsink fins facing you and the L bracket with the Diamond R logo facing down. We'll use a 2mm Allen to secure 2 of the flush mount screws into the holes labeled 98 to 13 Street Glide. Before proceeding, be sure to remove the pre-installed power connector from our amp, since our harness already has one. We'll flip the assembly over and secure our amplifier in place with 4 button head screws using a 2.5mm Allen. Once we're done, we'll tune the amp. Now, we offer this free amp tuning guide that's available in the description of this video and through this kit's product details page at rockfordfosgate.com. Once we get the amp configured, we'll use a T10 Torx to remove 2 screws from the back of the source unit and secure the assembly to the top. Now we're ready to wire our amplifier. We'll take the input harness from our amp mounting kit and connect the cable labeled left side input to the left OEM terminals, and the harness labeled right side input to the right OEM terminals. Once you're done, connect the Molex to the amplifier's front input. Now we'll switch over to the output harness, noting that the red is positive and black is negative. Connect the cable labeled left side output to the left speaker, and the cable labeled right side output to the right speaker. Finally, plug the Molex into the amplifier's front output. Now we're ready to connect our TourPak and bag lid harnesses. First, connect the TourPak harness labeled rear input to the amplifier's rear input jack, and the harness labeled rear output to the amplifier's rear output. We're also going to install this Y adapter because we need to connect our bag lid harness labeled speaker rear to the other end. Once you're done with that, plug the power connector into the amplifier, keeping in mind the blue turn-on wire is not used in this configuration since we're using the high-level input signal to turn on and off the amp. Alright, we're ready to prepare our bag lids for speaker installation. Now we designed this template to help you make the perfect cut. To get started, we'll detach the bag completely from the motorcycle. Then we'll use 3M masking tape to cover the top of the bag lid so we don't scratch the paint. Next, we'll position our template on top, making sure the front lip of the template is sitting firmly against the ridge of the bag lid. Push on the corner, front, and top of the template to make sure it's properly positioned with no play on the lid. Then, mark the 2 top pilot holes and use a 1/8 inch drill bit to pre-drill the holes. Secure the template in place using a number 2 Phillips and the small screws provided in the kit. Now that we have that done, we're ready to cut our bag lids. To get started, use a T20 Torx to detach the top half of the fabric hinge, just as a precaution. Now we'll place a bin liner inside the bag to catch any debris. We'll use a 5/16 bit to drill our pilot holes. Then, using a jigsaw with a fine-tooth blade, we'll start cutting, being careful to follow along the template while staying within the guides. To maintain accuracy, do not cut the adjoining segments of the template until all the guides are done. This will avoid fitment issues, especially around the corners. Now that we have that done, we're ready to install our speakers. First, we'll inspect our cutouts, making sure there are no burrs around the edges and test fit our grill. Then we'll open the bag lid and position the mounting ring and grill in place to make sure that they are properly aligned. The grill goes on the outside and our mounting ring goes on the inside. This is where we'll sandwich them together to the bag lid. Using a number 2 Phillips, secure the assembly using 4 of the smaller screws supplied in the kit. Now be careful not to over tighten these. Once that's done, we'll align the speaker and basket protector assembly with the speaker terminals toward the rear of the bike. Then we'll secure to the mounting ring from the inside using 4 long button head screws with the built-in washer. Now we're ready to pre-wire our bag lid speakers. To get started, we'll measure approximately 3.5 inches down from the front of the bag's quick release. We'll need a 3/4 inch hole for installation of the wiring grommet. So we'll start with the drill bit, then switch to a step-up bit to increase the hole to the appropriate size. Once we're done with that, we'll take the pigtail harness included in the kit and connect the red wire to the positive terminal, that's marked with a red dot, and the black to the negative terminal. Then we'll use a T20 Torx to install the cable stay while reattaching our fabric hinge. Alright, now we're ready to run harnesses to the bag lids. To get started, we'll need to identify our bag lid harnesses labeled clutch side and brake side. On our motorcycle, the clutch side can easily be routed around the battery and under the frame, exiting toward the drive belt. Now on the brake side, we'll do the same thing and route our cable around the battery, under the frame, exiting toward the brakes. Make sure you have enough length to insert the grommet into the bag without any excess slack. Then go ahead and zip tie your harnesses in place. Okay, now we're ready to reinstall our saddlebags and finish wiring them. To get started, we'll position our bag in place and insert the grommet into the 3/4 inch hole. Once you have the grommet seated, double check that the harness doesn't interfere with your drive belt or any other moving parts. Then go ahead and finish securing the bag in place. Plug the speaker harness pigtail into the main harness. Use the included zip ties, zip tie mounts, and retainer clips to keep your wiring out of the way inside the bag. We've also included some replacement warning stickers for installation inside. Now we're ready to reassemble our motorcycle. We'll start in the front and clean up our wiring in preparation for the fairing. Then we'll move to the back and connect the power cable to the positive terminal and reconnect our negative cable with our amp ground. Once that's done, we'll put everything back in place. Now that we have the bike reassembled, we're ready to test and tune the system. Now we offer this free tuning guide that's available in the description of this video and through this kit's product details page at rockfordfosgate.com. The guide illustrates what tuning preset to use based on the speaker configuration of your motorcycle. Now the names of the presets may vary based on the software version of your source unit. You can always download the latest software at rockfordfosgate.com. So go ahead and use this guide to select the proper preset. Once selected, the radio will take a few moments to load the desired tuning profile. As you can see, that install is pretty straightforward. If you prefer to have a professional do the install for you, we have a network of authorized Rockford Fosgate dealers that can be found on our website. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact our technical support. It's free, and they can be reached Monday through Friday at 1-800-669-9899 or through live chat at the bottom of our website at rockfordfosgate.com. Until next time, I'm Eric. We'll see you again soon.